All right, let's dive into something that could totally change the way you design things. We're talking about a world where your engineering calculations are actually in the driver's seat, automatically updating your 3D models.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if you never had to manually punch in numbers from a spreadsheet into your CAD program ever again? What if every single time you tweaked a calculation, your 3D model just synced up instantly? Well, it's not sci-fi. It's just a much smarter way to work.
But hey, before we get to the cool stuff, let's talk about the problem. A problem that I'm sure you know all too well. It's that frustrating manual loop that we all get stuck at.
Yeah, it looks a little something like this, right? You do the math, maybe in Excel. Then you carefully, painstakingly type those results into your CAD software to build the model. And then, of course, the requirements change. And just like that, you're right back at square one, recalculating, re-entering, and just praying you don't make a typo along the way.
This old way of doing things, it's not just a hassle, it's slow. It is super repetitive. And probably worst of all, every single time you have to manually enter data, you're opening the door for a mistake.
So the big question is, how do we break out of this cycle? Well, there's a new approach on the table, and it's called calculation-driven design.
You know, at its heart, it's a really simple but incredibly powerful idea. It's this methodology where your engineering math, the actual source of truth for your design, is directly tied to your 3D model. The calculations literally drive the geometry. So here's kind of the blueprint for how it works. On one side, you've got your 3D model, maybe in something like Autodesk Inventor. And on the other, you've got your calculations living in a tool like CalcsLive. The real magic, though, happens with this thing that acts like a bridge, creating a live two-way link between your numbers and your model. So how do we actually build that bridge? That's where a specific tool comes into the picture. It's the CalcsLive plugin. This is the missing piece that makes this whole automated dream a reality. And here's the difference it makes. I mean, look at this. You go from having these totally disconnected spreadsheets and endless manual data entry to a world of integrated calculations and automatic syncing. A design update is no longer this chore that you dread. It's literally just a click away. So on the left, we've got the math, the raw numbers that define everything. And on the right, the 3D model itself. Right now, they're two separate things. But let's see what happens when we use that bridge to connect them. Okay, enough with the theory. Let's see how this thing actually works in the real world. We're going to watch this connection do its thing with a pretty simple sizing demo. So, the job is pretty straightforward. We've got this solid cylinder, and we need to figure out its height so that the final part weighs exactly what the client needs it to. Simple enough. Okay, so the initial requirement is that this cylinder has to weigh exactly 2 tons. The math gets done, the height is calculated, and boom, those numbers get pushed to the CAD model, and we have our first design. And there it is, the moment every single engineer sees coming. The project scope changes. That 2-ton requirement? Nope, not anymore. Now in the old world, this is where you'd sigh and start all over again, but not here. The new requirement is way smaller, just 500 kilograms. So instead of firing up a spreadsheet and starting from scratch, we just change that one number right there in the calculation document. And now for my favorite part. There's no recalculating volumes or heights by hand, no manually typing in new dimensions. You just click one button to sync the new calculations with the model. And just like that, the 3D model updates itself. You can actually see it's physically shorter and smaller because that height parameter was automatically recalculated and applied. The math and the model are now perfectly in sync. I mean, that is the power of this workflow. So, what does this all really mean for you and your day-to-day work? Well, it's about more than just a cool party trick. It's about changing the way you work so you can design smarter, not harder. The benefits here are just huge. You save an incredible amount of time. You pretty much eliminate those little manual entry errors that can cause big headaches. You can explore dozens of different design ideas super fast just by changing a few numbers. Your documents and your models, they're never out of sync. And maybe the most important thing, you get to spend your time focusing on real engineering problems, not just being a data entry clerk. So I'm just going to leave you with this question to chew on. Imagine all the hours you'd get back in your week. Think of all that creative energy you could redirect. What new possibilities could you explore? What amazing things could you create if your tools just handled all the tedious stuff for you?